Bleav in Everything Auburn is brought to you by Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. If you think you know your stuff, you should get in on the $200,000 mega contest. You pick 5 games against the spread every week for a chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. And when the game's over, you can head on over to the online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of the over 150 slots games. Head to the website today or get in on the action. Bet Online. The game starts here. War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to Everything Auburn. Taylor Davis and Jason Campbell with you on the heels of the first Auburn victory of the season. Week 1 officially in the rearview mirror. The crazy week that it was, not so much on the plains as Auburn came away with a comfortable win, but nonetheless, we are here to talk about it and get you ready for week 2 against Cal. So we welcome you in. Hope everyone enjoyed a high-flying full week of college football games all the way through Monday of Labor Day weekend, so plenty to catch up on. But I welcome in my co-host, Jason Campbell, who doesn't know this, but we're in a fight because how you did not tell me or talk about on the podcast that you're the star of Auburn's hype video this year. I am so disappointed in you. If you know me, you know how much I love a hype video and the pregame festivities at Auburn. And my parents had to tell me that you were in the hype video because you didn't even tell us. And I'm offended, but I also want to hear about it.
See, that's why you can tell me a secret. So, they told me not to tell anybody and to wait and let everybody see it on the Jumbotron. So, the only person actually knew was like my wife.
Your wife.
Because obviously you have to know I was going to film it. But
Sure.
yeah, so I kept it, low key. And everybody started sending me messages and everything, after they saw it. I was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I was just like, you kind of nervous because you know how it's going to turn out,
Yeah.
But those guys do such a great job.
Oh, yeah.
But, sometimes kind of weird seeing yourself up there, but it was cool, though. I enjoyed it.
You're a freaking legend when you get asked to do a hype video.
I'm just, trying to get off the bottom of the totem pole.
Shut
just
up. You're so ridiculous. Along with your big old face on the big old Jumbotron, your voice was also echoing loud through the radio broadcast as you begin another year calling Auburn's football games, and they gave you a game where you probably had to come up with things to say because what a boring game it was, albeit exciting for us to get to see a little bit more of the things that we have speculated for the past several months. But if you're unaware, Auburn defeated Alabama A&M a whopping 73-3. So much so that they ended up shortening the last 2 quarters of the game. And this probably takes us back to our conversation that we had on last week's episode about these non-conference FCS opponents and if there is truly a point. In my opinion, we will probably always see very lopsided non-conference games, just given the nature of health and scheduling. But if you are having to shorten quarters, if both coaches are agreeing to shorten quarters, your opponent is not high enough caliber. And I just think that's a fair enough statement. But talk to me a little bit about what stood out to you this week, albeit not necessarily an easy thing to gauge in comparison to the opponent. But competition aside, what stood out to you? What was effective early in season?
Well, the one thing that everybody wanted to come and see was the Freeze 4, right? Everybody want to see Bryce Kane. They want to see Cam Coleman. They want to see Malcolm Simmons, and they want to see Perry Thompson, right?
Yeah.
So that was a lot of the attention going into the game. And for what it's worth, those guys played really great. Their first game, no matter who you're playing, you're always going to be nervous. It's your first collegiate opportunity to go out and showcase, and especially coming in highly touted. So they put an emphasis on the passing game, which we knew Auburn last year ranked amongst closest to the bottom in the SEC in passing. So at 161 yards per game last season. So, coach wanted to get off to a fast start in the passing game this year. And this was an opportunity for us to build confidence. This was a confidence game for us. Get Payton Thorne off on a fast start. You see, they got him 4 touchdown passes. They tried to get him a 5th. You look at the overall, we didn't run the ball really a whole lot. This was enough to just, get the offensive linemen some touches in the run game. But the whole emphasis on this game offensively was, let's get our quarterback confident, get him being more consistent, get him ready for our real season that actually starts this week, So, and to get these young guys, you're under the lights, you need to see the ball in the air. Like, it is a difference sometimes judging the ball in the air under the lights.
That's a good point.
Guys, being in a big stadium with 90,000 people in the stands, to fight jitters off, to me was very important. So I like what I saw offensively. We did exactly what we're supposed to do to an opponent like that, but we also, went out there and hit some big play. Last year, Payton would throw some of those long balls, maybe long foul balls, like way over their head, or the guys got to stop and come back. Yeah, they've been working on the timing a lot more. So hit 2 of them right in strides. He hit Perry Thompson on a deep one that was pretty. He hit Lambert Smith on a deep one. Route that was pretty. Both of those were right on the money. The receivers never broke stride. Those you like to see. That shows you that a full off season and not having to look over your shoulder to see who's, you going in this series or you going out that series, to know that you're in command for the entire game. You saw a little bit more confident Payton Thorne. And like I said, we'll know a lot more this week, Taylor, because your biggest improvements are from game 1 to game 2.
Right.
And everything. But defensively, Coach Durkin had those guys flying around. And this is a defensive front that I really, really like. Malik Blockton stepped up big time. The freshman, Ayers' brother, had a really good game, had him a sack. But this D-line is going to be a really good rotation. Linebacker core, getting the kid Doran from Duke was absolutely huge. He is very, very smart in helping out guys on that side of the ball. So overall, impressed. Like to see us this week, see if we can stay consistent. We don't expect us to throw for 400 yards or 500 yards, but you like to just see us hit the consistent plays in the passing game, take it from this week to next week.
Yeah, definitely. That is the age-old statement in my game prep for this week. All of the players that I'm talking to are like, well, week 1 to week 2 has to be the biggest improvement. I guess Florida State missed that memo about your biggest improvements from game 1 to game 2, but nonetheless, we'll get into some of this weekend's biggest results here in just a minute. But yes, I think that the offensive firepower is something that we haven't necessarily been able to brag about in the past few years. And we were certainly given reason to believe that it could be there. It certainly could be if they continue to have that sort of effectiveness in timing. That really jumped out to me as well. I completely agree with you, against more impactful defensive competition, which you certainly are going to see. 10 different receivers had a catch as well, and 5 of them scored. So this is a very different situation in last year, trying to figure out who the heck can Payton throw to. Now it's which one does Payton throw to? There are a laundry list of options for him to utilize now, and which one has the hot hand, which one works best with this route, which one goes best against this coverage. You've got versatility there now. So I think that gives you comfort. I thought the line did a good job. You're right. It wasn't necessary. I didn't anticipate we were going to throw 60% of the time. I really didn't, but a very heavy RPO system, you are just kind of going to do what the defense is giving you. And they were stuffing the box a lot. Keandre Lambert-Smith, as expected, definitely is going to be a force out there. He scored twice in the first quarter. So away it went. We only ran the ball 18 times, but still averaged nearly 10 yards a carry and had 3 rushing touchdowns. So I still feel confident in the run game. It just wasn't the nature of the game. And that's the difference as well, is in previous years, if the run game was shut down, we didn't have another dimension. Like, that was, you took away everything because our passing game has been abysmal. So now it's, okay, we can do either. We have the personnel to do either. Whatever the defense tries to shut down, you've got a counter for it. So that gave me a lot more confidence.
When you look at it overall, last year this team would have won 45-3. This year 3-3 because
Very true.
So you do see improvements in this team. There's a lot more talent. The recruiting class, showed you a lot of that and everything. So got a chance to see Payton after the game. He was so excited and just saying like, hey man, I got some guys. These dudes can really, really run.
That's great.
So he feels confident on just giving those guys an opportunity to go up and make plays.
Good.
Malcolm Simmons, to me, probably had the biggest impact.
I think so too.
This guy had an impact in the passing game, had an impact in the special teams. Anytime you get a receiver like that that's, so athletic, and likes to be involved in every aspect of the game, like you got yourself a great player. And him along with Cam Coleman, like Cam didn't get a lot of touches. Everybody wanted to see him get at least 7 touches. I think he only had 2 catches, but he'll tell you like, man, I'm not worried about that. Mine's he was just excited to get his first touchdown and everything. We actually missed him on another throw, but he's going to be fine. So overall, we have a lot of great talent. Now we know as time pursues, you can't play everybody like we did this past week. Right. So you're going to have to narrow it down to, okay, who's our 5 to 6 best receivers, guys that we're going to mix into rotation, and who are we going to have to maybe redshirt or say, hey, you're going to have to come along slowly. As time persists, the conversation will come up. Same way you get a defensive front. We had a really good rotation going on Saturday, but as you know, as depth comes, you got to be able to stay in the game long enough to get into a rhythm, right? So you got to be able to learn the guy in front of you. If his hands is heavy on the knuckles, know if it's a run play, if you're a defensive lineman. If he's light on the knuckles, understand, it's a pass play. He's going to pass set. So all those different little things that you have to look at as a lineman, but also communication. That's the next step. So I like what I saw from Jaron Thompson. I'm trying to still understand his name. Jaron, I think it is, but from the kid from Texas that transferred over.
Okay.
I think he's going to be a huge force for us in the secondary and everything. So Keontae Scott is going to have a big season. So we have talent, Taylor. If you ask me where we lack depth at, it's our secondary.
Yeah, they're young.
Yeah, they're young. We lost a couple guys, Portal last year, and got an injury, torn ACL this past summer, Tyler Scott. So our young guys, Sylvester Smith is going to have a big season. He had 4 tackles the other night, and he's going to have a big season, and he can do it. He's talented to do it from that standpoint. So there's guys, Terrence Love is going to have a big season as another young pup. So we have talent. They just got to get experience.
Right. I think the other side of having so many young guys that are going to be in pivotal roles on both sides of the ball, mistakes are inevitable. They are going to happen. You are playing a totally different level of a game than you have ever played in your entire life, and now you're being thrown into real live competition with it. You are going to see mistakes made. It's how does the rest of the entire unit pick up in its place? It's not going to be, it doesn't seem to be as detrimental when you've got so much talent across the board and the potential, like you were saying, that depth. Hugh wants 6 to 7 defensive linemen rotating on the interior moving forward. That means you've got 6 to 7 guys that you feel are caliber starters on the interior of your line. So when you've got the depth, you've got the talent, and you've got a team that is gelling and working together well, when you see young guys make those inevitable mistakes, we're seeing flags left and right in week 1 that are dumb, bonehead decisions. Those are going to be inevitable when you've got young guys, but you have to be able to pick up for it in its place. And I feel like this team has a really good balance of that. And with the secondary being as young as they are, like Hugh has said, I don't have straightaway starters right now in the secondary. Like week in and week out, they're going to have to show me because they're young, they're inexperienced, but every week you have a chance to show what you're doing when you get that experience. Now, they really didn't get much test in the passing game with A&M because they didn't really throw downfield. So this week will be a different test depending on what Cal wants to do and the health of Jaden Ott, which we'll get into here in a minute. But also a notable cornerback, Champ Anthony, has been dealing with a calf strain. He played some in Alabama A&M. Hugh said he probably could have played more, but precautionary-wise, there was no point. But that is something that he is dealing with. And then defensive lineman Isaiah Riggs didn't play this past week, been dealing with an ankle injury. He is expected to be available for Cal this weekend, which will be great. But as far as the perception of Auburn, though, not that matters. The proof's in the pudding. But week 1, you go into it with hope, excitement. There's been a lot of talk, but let's see it in action. With the opponent that we played week 1 and how incredibly lopsided it was from start to finish, how justifiable do you think it is that real hype starts building around Auburn?
I think real hype is going to build because people understand the talent that was been recruited the last 2 years. Freeze got here, I'd say it's a little over a year and a half ago, and his first class he immediately put together in a month, finishing top 12. Yep. And this past year we finished 7th, and right now we're shaping up to probably finish 2 or 3 by December in this class. So you're starting to see the talent, and that's one thing you can't coach. And, that's what he's talking about. I think people are looking at our rosters that are loading up and saying, okay, watch out for Auburn. Watch out for Coach Freeze in year 2. Year 1 is always a feel me out year. Year 2 is like, okay, now we're starting to set the foundation.
Right.
So now you're starting to see like, okay, what he wants to do offensively, what he wants to do from a foundation standpoint. It's part of why he took over play calling and everything, because he wants to get back to doing what he knows, what he wants to do. When you think about defensively, that's why he brought in Coach Durkin. He wants someone that's kind of like him, chew you out a little bit, but Coach Durkin a little bit more in your face in a good way, because he really challenges his defensive players. Hey, be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and everything. So I really think people will pay attention to this team. They will pay attention to this team more if you can go out there this week.
Yeah, I agree.
Follow the game up last week with a good game. No one expecting a 73-3. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about looking like a different football team where offensively you look more consistent.
Yeah.
3rd and 3rd downs. Last year we was, like I said, towards the bottom in passing game, towards the bottom in 3rd down conversion. So in order to have, big plays, you got to convert 3rd down. So can we do that against Cal, who's now in the ACC, who's their first 5 games this year? Our first 5 games are at home. Their first 5 games are either in Central Time Zone or Eastern Time Zone.
That's so wild.
So they're getting a quick taste of what it's like to travel a lot.
Yeah.
Where Auburn had to travel to Cal, it was a late game for Auburn. It was like a 10:30 kickoff if it was Auburn time. A lot of guys have to fight the sleep, coming on them. And to win that game last year was pretty much a lot of because the Auburn fan base showed up and showed out and fed those guys energy when they could have just lulled themselves to sleep and got beat. So big win. So this year, Cal comes to Auburn. It's going to be a 2:30 game Central, and it's not going to be extremely hot. So they're going to catch a break. So this game, from a time perspective, they're going to be woke and ready, So, and they're going to want to revenge their loss from last year.
Absolutely.
Got knocked out the game last year. So he want nothing less but to come here and rush against this football team. So, and they're a veteran team. I think they picked up, there's either 24 or 28 players in transfer portal this past year.
Yeah.
So they're an experienced football team, and they're well coached. So this is a game I think our guys know, like, okay, everything got to get ramped up. Practice got to be up tempo, got to be ramped up. How you prepare, you got to study a little bit harder. You got to watch a little bit more film this week. Last week to them was our preseason game. You got the preseason game. There's no more preseason games after this. Vanderbilt now is looking like a tough game.
Don't get me started.
So
you can't. The thing, it drives me insane every season is that we even attempt to know what this all is going to look like and who teams are. It does not matter what they did the year before. It doesn't matter what you've heard in spring ball until the ball snaps and you are facing real competition and it matters what you're doing. That's when you start to see the real identity and personality of a team. Anything before week 0 is speculation, and it holds no weight. Why Florida State was an undisputed top 10 team makes no freaking sense to me. The turnover that they experienced, and I know this kid is getting so much heat, but like DJ Uiagalelei couldn't do it at Clemson. Why did we all get amnesia and think it was going to be a foolproof system at Florida State again? I understand they have talent, but like this is not the day and age of college football where Alabama won last year, they're winning this year. Because the entire landscape changes rapidly in one offseason. The slate is wiped completely clean until we get into season. And like Coach Freeze has said, you don't really know who your team is until week 3 or 4. Like this thing has to get into a rhythm at the beginning. So anyone that you think you can rule out, you can't. So I totally agree with you. I think Vandy is scarier right now. Virginia Tech learned that real quickly. But with this Cal team, I think it provides us a much better opportunity than this past week did to have a real better sense of how these guys are going to be when your back may be against the wall and when the pressure's really high and when you feel like you're running out of time. Those guys are going to have to be tested in those kinds of environments. How do you handle adversity and high pressure? There really wasn't any pressure this past week. Like you were comfortable. You got to go show out. I bet those guys had so much fun out there. I honestly felt like I started feeling sad for Alabama A&M. Like that's got to be miserable to just keep doing it and like just repeatedly nothing you're doing is working. But Cal's going to come in here juiced, and I think Auburn, there's a very fine line. You probably know this so well as a player between taking mega confidence from a game and getting comfortable. Those are very different things. And when you've got young players that are being made feel like they're the second coming, and they have a big show out game in week 1, you got to be real careful if you're a coach that mentality doesn't lead to comfortability, because that gets you losses.
Well, for Auburn to be the team they want to be, this is a game you have to win.
Yeah,
you know, you got to keep moving the needle upward, and this week you got to come out ready to play fast, because if you let Cal come in there and feel themselves around, and all of a sudden you get in a dogfight and they get confidence, like, oh, we can go toe to toe. Now you're in a dogfight. Yep. So you have to utilize your crowd noise, because now with the new way that with the helmets and everything, the quarterback has to communicate with the helmets. If you're an Auburn fan, this is the game you get loud. You make it extremely hard on the opposing quarterback to be able to hear the call through the helmet and everything. You saw that was an issue this past week for some teams. Had called multiple timeouts. Those things are going to come up because of the crowd noise.
Right.
And how you manage that is going to be big. So I think for Auburn, you get a step up and an advantage in that point because you're at home, and defensively, you get a chance to ride the coattail of the crowd noise. You get a chance to make it extremely hard on them. And so I think Auburn is in a great position to rewrite the script this year. It sets up for us that way.
Yep.
Like you said, but it's about pressing forward and not getting comfortable. And I want to say this too, though. You mentioned the kid at Florida State, Uiagalelei.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough. So my whole thing is I watched him and TJ Finley this past week, right? So I just watched quarterbacks, especially so many of them transferring to different schools. And then I watched the 2 Sunday night, Nessenberger and Moss.
Nussmeier?
Yeah, Nussmeier. Where I got Nussmeier from? Yeah, Nussmeier. So Nussmeier and Moss. I don't know where I got Nessenberger from. But when you think about those 2 guys, they sat and waited their turn.
Yep.
And they learned the offense. And when their time presented itself, they looked like veteran quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And they already made themselves high draft picks. No, how high, I don't know. But they made themselves very high draft picks because it showed about being stable and not jumping all over the place.
I totally agree.
And I look at TJ Finley and I look at Ungulate. I think it's how you so Ungulate. So we just
just call him DJ.
Yeah, DJ. So you look at DJ.
DJ and TJ. Wow, makes it easy.
DJ was at Clemson. He struggled, right?
Yeah.
But then he goes to Oregon State and has a great year.
He did.
At Oregon State. Why leave Oregon State? You finally put yourself on the map. You're having a great year at Oregon State. And you was in the first year of the system out there. Why not come back as a senior and stay at Oregon State? And then you look at TJ Finley. You leave LSU, come to Auburn, leave Auburn, go to Texas State. Texas State, you break the passing record last year at Texas State, had a great year. But instead of you going back to Texas State to finish it on out and make yourself maybe a draft pick, now you probably played yourself out of a draft pick or you chase a little bit more money to probably go to Western Kentucky. Same thing with DJ, chase a little bit more money to go to Florida State. But guys, it's more than just about plugging and play. It's about chemistry. It's about the right fit. It's about the right place at the right time. Like I keep telling people that stuff when you play quarterback, you just can't show up and just show. Things have to fit and they have to fit you and it has to be the right place. And those two guys did not look good this last week. And it hurt them from a draft perspective. But overall, you had no reason to leave in the first place. So if any of these kids out here are listening and understanding the game of football and the game of life, when you're rolling, man, stay put. Grass is not always greener on the other side. And I just wanted to say that. But because it takes timing, with different receivers and different coordinators, you have to get a feel for your coordinator. Your coordinator has to get a feel for you. Right now, Coach Norvell doesn't have a real feel for DJ, and you can tell because sometimes he dials up some plays and they're wide open, they miss them. And then sometimes, it just doesn't look fluent. It doesn't look clean at all. And so, but when you think about Auburn, though, like it's a big reason by Payton Thorne, you stay another year. Like you probably could have had a chance to go somewhere else. Auburn could have, brought in another guy. Coach Free said, hey, this is the guy I want to stick with because why? He said, I seen this kid play at Michigan State. He said, I think he's a good talent. He can help this team. He said, I just feel like last year wasn't a good opportunity for him because he came in midsummer. And like with him having a full time to learn and do certain things, he feels like he can be better this year. Now, that's already showed in week 1 from just a perspective. Now I just need to translate against bigger opponents.
Better competition. I completely agree with you. And they will definitely get the chance to do that this week as Cal comes to town off a win over UC Davis. So again, one that was a bit predictable and one that they certainly should have had. They did not have any sacks, which against that level of competition you kind of would expect. Now, Hugh Freeze also called out our pass rush and said he wants to see more from him. We had 3 sacks on the day, but Cal had none, and their opponent threw it 48 times. They did have 3 interceptions, so the back end was active. Their defense is interesting, and I think for our offense, it'll probably have their attention. It looks like a 4-2-5, but it's really a 2-4-5 with 2 rush-ins and just 2 down linemen. So not the conventional defense that you see, but it does give you an opportunity for a big day on the ground. So, but they'll do some zone blitzing, some different things that you're not seeing or having to prepare for from every defense. So interesting to see that one a little bit. But I do think it'll be a more active day on the ground. But Cal hopes it'll be for them as well. Running back Jaden Ott, who put up over 1,200 yards last season. Now, he did leave in the 3rd quarter of their game against UC Davis with an ankle injury, did not return, but their coach has said he is, quote, probable for Auburn, so all signs point to him being available to play, but definitely notable that something was bothering him or tweaked in this past week, so we'll see how that goes. But I think it'll be a good test. To your point, it's more of a veteran group. It's a well-coached group. And it's one that will have a lot of motivation to come in and change what happened last year.
Well, the thing about Cal is they have a knack for taking the ball away. They did a really good job of that last year of being one of the better teams nationally and getting turnovers. So last year, Auburn, they forced Auburn turnovers. They had the scoreboard first last year. Payton was going to towards the sideline and whatever happened there, and they get an interception and turn that into points. So the big thing about it, though, their quarterback, who was out there last year, is now with us. The guy that Jackson, Payton Thorne's high school teammate, and now he's with us, and to go up and caught him a touchdown pass this past week off a Hail Mary throw by Hank Brown, pretty much. So I'm pretty sure Coach is going to pick his brain a little bit about that offense, about their personnel, who are some of their guys. So this week, I'm pretty sure they're leaning heavy on Jackson as far as like, hey, we need you to be an extra coach a little bit and kind of give us what you know from a
scouting report.
All right, let's scouting report. So everyone always think that helps a whole lot. It helps a little bit. Like you get tidbits here and there, but the opponent knows that though. So they may change some of the way they call things, which now doesn't really matter, Taylor, because the helmet situation. So now that you called into the helmet, you don't have to worry about signals and all those different things. So, they kind of, but you can talk about the personnel though.
Yeah, and he was asked if Cal is going to bring fans, and he said no, which I thought was hilarious.
I said no.
Yeah, like he was asked, Auburn traveled really well to Cal last year. Do you think their fan base is going to return the favor and bring a lot? And he said no.
Wow. Do you think their band comes?
Yeah, I'm sure. I think they just meant like the Auburn fan, to your point, like the Auburn fan base really helped last year from an energy perspective and whatever. Do y'all anticipate that Cal is going to like have a visit? And he said no. He said, I'm just being honest. I don't think.
I can see him that, like, no, not really.
No. It's so good. I respect the honesty, but we are a nearly 2-touchdown favorite as it sits right now. I'm sure that will waver as we get closer to game time, but I think it's going to be a good matchup. I'm one of those cautiously optimistic fans, as we all always are, but it feels like a much more educated hope this year because not only did we see good play and we saw a big win in week 1, but we saw the very things that have been our Achilles heel the last few seasons be directly fixed. That has not been the case. So it feels like a different narrative. And if we're going to have problems this year, I think it's going to be different problems than what we've had the past couple. And I'll take that, Yeah.
Well, in this game, so last week, both teams pretty much was very vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
No one really showed a whole lot. Auburn didn't show a whole lot in the run game. We didn't show a whole lot in the passing game with Cam. Of course, Lambert Smith had 2 touchdown passes, but he only had 3 catches. We didn't show a whole lot with him on how we're going to really utilize him.
True.
Malcolm Simmons probably showed a little bit more of what he can do. But for those
other 2 the one that dropped the ball right when he crossed the pylon?
Yeah, he got an earful about that. So
I bet he did. That is the dumbest thing you can do.
Yeah, he got an earful about that. So he's lucky that wasn't caught. That's a good teaching tape for him as a freshman.
Big time.
When you think about Cal playing UC Davis, same thing, very vanilla. So this game is going to come down to a little bit of poker play, right? So cat and mouse game. Cal didn't do a whole lot. So they're going to come out defensively. It's going to take you a quarter to kind of figure out what they're doing at 2-4, systems. They like to run 2-4-5 or whatever.
Yep.
So just from that standpoint, Auburn didn't do a lot of blitzing. Coach Dirk likes to bring pressure. He didn't have to do blitzing. So as well, Cal got to figure out, okay, what do we expect from Auburn's defense? So I like this matchup. I really do. I like it because we'll find out more about each other. For me, first quarter is going to be a little slow because it's going to be a fill me out type of deal. And then I expect after that for both teams to settle in and kind of be like who you are is going to start the show. So it's really going to come down to which quarterback handles sudden situations. There wasn't a lot of sudden situations last week.
True.
Like how do you handle sudden situations? How do you handle adversity? So those are the things we want to see. Is it water off a duck's back or does it catch itself in the next series?
True.
So there's a lot of things to look at in this game. And I do, Cal being the first time in the ACC, they want nothing more than to show that they belong in the ACC.
Yeah.
And so this is the way to do it, playing against the SEC opponent.
Yeah, I agree. Though the ACC is kind of what the heck is going on.
But,
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, look, they're sitting here going, we could make a run in this conference the way it's sitting right now.
See Clemson?
Clemson, barely. I don't think they showed up. They didn't get off the bus.
Yeah, Georgia played good, but Clemson had some spots early on. If they hit those shots early on, they hit those plays, and now you get on the scoreboard, it makes it a different ball game from a confidence standpoint. Like they just kept shooting themselves in the foot, going backwards and backwards. And like I said, they're trying to build their whole program through high school recruits. And I think Dabo's going to have to take a real look after this year and say, you don't have to go get 20 players in the portal, but you might have to get 5 or 7 guys that are difference makers until your young guys can develop. Otherwise you're playing catch up to a lot of these other schools.
Yeah, but he's been doing this, I believe, in high school recruiting and development for years. This isn't year 2 of that. So, like, where are these guys that you've been developing?
Well, I'm telling you where they are. When you lose your 2 best coordinators, and that's what people don't listen to, Taylor. They think it's just the head coach. Every head coach, go ask Coach Saban. He always went out and got the top offensive coordinator, even though he would have 7 out of 9 years. There was 7 top coordinators in that position.
Yeah.
Defensive coordinators. He had Kirby Smart. He had Muschamp. He had the guy that was at Michigan State. So he's had great coordinators. He's always had great coordinators. It's no different than Dabo.
Yeah.
When his 2 coordinators left, everything pummeled. It's been pummeling since they left.
True.
So, he hasn't been able to replace those coordinators with other great coordinators.
Right.
That pays that's a big, big reason. A lot of people don't look at that, but that's a key to success. So,
no, you're right.
About the ACC though, Clemson, you don't really know much about them. They got to chalk up game 1. Florida State we've seen for 2 weeks. They're not Florida State.
No.
They're not the 19 straight win Florida State that they seen before they lost to Georgia in the bowl game.
Yep.
And then you look at the, Virginia Tech, high hopes. You saw them up and close. They're not the Virginia Tech team that everyone had been anticipating. So the ACC, it is wide open. It is an opportunity for them if they want to go in there. Like you saw Boston College.
Yeah.
Georgia
Tech.
Yeah, Georgia Tech. So to me, the cost of the transfer portal, you don't really know until after week 4.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
A lot of times people would put, let's just call it what it is. Florida State, it didn't matter when Coach Bowden was coaching there, they was going to be top 5 every year, preseason, just because one, who was the head coach. And just like with Alabama, every year, they're always going to be top 3 when Saban was the coach there. Even when he was at LSU, it's going to be top 3. So it doesn't matter. And I think Clemson gets a lot of credit because everyone's still looking at the Dabo from the years they won the championships.
Right.
But they haven't looked at the Clemson since he lost his coordinators.
Yeah. No, it's a very good point.
Yeah. So that's why I like the SEC this year. You look at LSU.
How they let that one go, though, man.
You got to finish. I saw that coach, ranting, after the game. He has a right to rant, but discipline has got to show up for that football team.
Yeah. This isn't new.
Yeah. This happened last year to him.
Exactly.
Make a big play. Dudes either taking the helmet off or getting into the opponent's face or doing something to draw a 15-yard penalty. So instead of you getting the ball at midfield, you get it at the 35. Just stuff like that. That cost them the game the other day. It cost them games last year. So Brian Kelly has got to do a better job in disciplining his football team.
100%.
You look at Bama. They play Western Kentucky. Offensively, they still look really good, which the head coach is an offensive guy. Yep. So the offensively, they're going to be fine. Defense is where you have to question that. And they play pretty good defensively, so we'll still learn more about them.
Yeah.
Georgia, like you said, played probably a good opponent. Everyone
that was good. Yeah.
So
Texas A&M.
Yeah, Texas A&M.
What do you think?
They're going to be better. I think the quarterback, I think they overhyped him.
I agree. He did not look great.
Yeah, like they've been on Wigman for the last 2 years, and last year he ended up getting hurt in the game against us, and they had an opportunity to bring in guys, but they just sold their hat on that he's the guy like that. And if you have better quarterback play against Notre Dame, they win that game.
Yes, so it's really a defensive game.
Their defense is going to be stout. So
yeah, I mean that's Elko. Tennessee
got a young quarterback. He looks good.
He looked really good.
Young quarterback. So if you look at it top to bottom, Billy Napier's in trouble. Like, you cannot let Miami come into your backyard and just walk over you that way.
Beat the crap out of you.
Like, make it close. Make it a game where everybody like, okay, we lost, but it was a great game. You can't even walk away from that game feeling confident about the team.
I feel bad for him.
Yeah, so they got some internal issues going on there. So you'll find a lot about Texas this weekend against Michigan.
Texas, yeah.
You know, and then Oklahoma, you're going to, like I said, they come to Auburn in 3 weeks. So it's going to be very interesting because there's no West, and it just leaves the door wide open. That's why everybody think I'm crazy, because I said I Bleav Auburn can make it into the final 12. I said, if you look at it, our first 5 games are at home.
Yep.
That's the pivotal. However we finish in those first 5, you can't go no less than 4 wins in the first 5 at home.
Right.
And then you got the gauntlet on the road: Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky. You got 3 in a row. You got to find a way. If you can win 2 of the 3, you know, that gets you into the playoffs, because I think we can get Bama at the end of the year. Everybody know how the Iron Bowl is. You never know. We know more about them. They know more about us when we get there.
Yeah.
But then we get A&M at home. It's going to be a tough game, not a cakewalk. We're going to get A&M at home. You get Vanderbilt at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we got Louisiana Monroe somebody in there. But you think about it as a whole, your gauntlet of a schedule is going to come between Oklahoma week, Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky. How you finish between those 4 weeks going to determine if you're going to have a shot to be in the 12-team playoffs coming in the year.
Okay. Dang.
Because Oregon and Ohio State spent the most money in transfer portal, they automatically pencil them in as, you know, the top 2 teams in the Big Ten. You know, rightfully could be, but Oregon struggled to beat Idaho this past weekend. And, you know, Ohio State was at a 17-3 with Akron. Could have been 10-3 with Akron at halftime almost.
Yeah.
So just because you spend a lot of money to bring in these players doesn't buy you a championship. These are still 17 to 23-year-old kids, and they're
playing an unpredictable game.
And then some of them, it can go the opposite way. If they get some money, they may regress because they get comfortable. You know, so you don't know what you're getting in that aspect of it. But people just think like, oh, Ohio State spent $20 million on their roster and transfer portal, they should win a championship.
Yep.
You know, so like I said, that's why you play the game. So, you know, it's been said for years and everything. So I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be a great weekend, I think, for college football as a whole. Get a chance to see a little bit more. I thought Wisconsin would give Bama a little bit more competition, but that's not looking the case right now. Van Dyke, I think, he didn't look comfortable in that offense in the first game against Western Michigan. You know, he just didn't look comfortable.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's a lot changes first couple of weeks because they get them here soon.
Yeah, we've got Texas, Michigan this week.
Yeah, so Texas, Michigan, game day will probably be there. Who is Notre Dame's schedule? Pencil Notre Dame into the.
Go ahead and put them in. They might have won it this week. Oh, this week they have Northern Illinois. Then at Purdue, Miami of Ohio, Louisville, Stanford. They go to Georgia Tech. So depending what Georgia Tech continues to be, I'm really not sure. At Navy, Florida State at home, Virginia at home, at Army, at USC.
So their 2 toughest games right now looking like Georgia Tech and USC. So go ahead and pencil them in.
And then you essentially get a bye week when everyone else is playing a conference title.
They're in the top 12. So,
they're in the top 12, yeah.
So that's one team we can put in there already. So
wow. That's insane.
That's why I asked the question, if 4 SEC schools go 2 losses, how do they not be in the playoffs?
You're right. Well, with that, we will go ahead and close this episode because my mic said, that's enough, Tay. Stop talking. But this weekend, I will be on the call for Pitt versus Cincinnati on ESPN2. If you are curious about that, really no one is, but just putting that out there. And of course, you can catch Jason on the radio call for Cal versus Auburn. That will be on 2:30 Central Time on ESPN2. So that game will follow mine on ESPN2. So looking forward to another great weekend of college football and hopefully our second Auburn win. So we will be back next week to break down all the action. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already so you'll get a notification every time we release an episode. You can also find us on Bleav's YouTube channel if you prefer to watch in video form. And we will be back next week. Enjoy week 2, everybody. War Eagle.
War Eagle, everybody. Over, under. Auburn throws for more than 250 yards passing this week.
Under.
Wow.
I'm negative. Bye.